Brainstorming about tango made me think and research about the alienation of a subculture, yoga and tango in comparison. On first view, both seem to have nothing but nothing in common. I find interesting parallels to the international widely spread phenomena of yoga and tango. Somehow, it's interesting to compare their specific acceptance and development in the Western world. To start with, I provide you with a short overview about historical relevant influences. Let's see what my point is. The origins of yoga dating back 3000 to 3500 years to the Vedic period of ancient India. India is a country with some of the most deeply religious societies and cultures, home of Hinduism and Buddhism. Yoga is a combination of physical, mental, and spiritual exercises, practices, disciplines. There are many different styles and interpretations found as well in Hinduism as in Buddhism. The industrial growth that began in the United States in the early 1800s continued steadily up through the century. Machines replaced hand labor, increasing the production capacity of industry tremendously. By opening borders to trade and allowing human creativity to flourish, New York and other cities across the globe had become centers of learning, producing, and sharing back in the 19th century. This broke down national barriers and led to innovations in transportation and technology. While New York became the marvelous product of this openness, there grew a big demand for answers to spiritual questions. Swami Vivekananda was the first guru who introduced yoga to the West back in the late 19th century. Born into an aristocratic family, he was exposed to education and spirituality. After his father's death, Swami Vivekananda could not stop the loss of his family's wealth. He became a very poor man. And he went to Sri Ramakrishna, who became his later teacher, asked him for help to pray so that he get back his wealth. But Ramakrishna told him he had to do that by himself. He followed Ramakrishna's advice and prayed for wisdom to get out of his financial problems. But his life journey continued poor. Traveling as a begging monk was the only option he had. The wisdom he found in his meditation finally brought him out of misery. After some years of traveling and building up his spirituality, he got into contact with personalities from many diverse backgrounds, religion, and influence. New achieved contacts, views, and wisdom made him decide to spread his belief to the Western world in 1893. He should become a renowned lecturer with huge success in the UK and the US. Due to better traveling conditions, many yoga gurus from India followed his path to the West, where their spiritual knowledge was accepted with interest. Later, some gurus misused their knowledge and spiritual power for personal advantages. This further helped to raise criticism and paranoia against yoga. Many yoga gurus were seen as corrupt and fake, that yoga received a bad reputation. The media, as a big influencer, supported this negative image. As the physical benefits of yoga have not been questioned, yoga became more and more popular as a system of physical exercise across the Western world. Since yoga has legitimized as a purely exercise for health, unconnected to any religion, it was fully acknowledged. Since 2001, the popularity of yoga in the USA has expanded. Every day, millions of people practice yoga to improve their health and overall well-being. In these days, they have developed multiple branches of interpretations of yoga, partner yoga, pregnant yoga, mother and child yoga, beer yoga, wine yoga, doggy yoga, hot yoga, whatever people invented to make a business out of it. In the last decade, under the huge influence of social media, yoga has taken out totally the soul out of it. It became very artificial and profit-oriented. Yoga has become a huge industry with many side industries following, like yoga holidays, retreats, yoga teacher trainings, retreats, yoga fashion, yoga mat, yoga water bottles, and. Big business has become with the teacher training seminars all over the world. 3 weeks of yoga teacher training, everybody can take part and you are a certificated teacher. No wonder so many injuries appear despite the health benefits exercises of yoga. Once established in the West, with the help of today's social media and the money-oriented mainstream of this subculture, yoga turned into an industry lacking on knowledge and respect for the original. When yoga was introduced to the West, it was more than a physical exercise. It has a meditative and spiritual core in the sutras of Patanjali. Indian gurus, people of wide knowledge and spiritual experience, rooted in their cultural background and education by their spiritual grandmasters, brought yoga to the West. But let's keep up with positive views. There is still a side stream of existing holistic yoga open for the conversation to say, "Hello people, we are offering you something meaningful. Are you interested?" Roughly in the same time Swami Vivekananda was traveling the Western world, Argentina enjoyed peace and stability. Massive waves of European immigrants radically reshaped social and cultural background towards the end of the 19th century. A small upper class with super rich families and a huge lower class with real poor people. Influences from African, Native American and European culture, tango originated in the lower class neighborhoods of Buenos Aires and Montevideo. In this ambience, tango was the amusement for the poor, the immigrants, the working class. The increase in prosperity led Argentina becoming the 7th wealthiest developed nation in the world in the following decade. La Belle Époque in Paris can be described as a revolutionary time in any sense. Industrial innovations, economical growth, textile, fashion industry everywhere, department stores growing, new architectural concepts, and the rising of the Art Nouveau is exceptional for this time. From beginning of the 19th century until World War I, Paris was a center of attention in many senses. It was a melting point for all artists. And of course, Paris was trendsetting for all high society of Buenos Aires. First of all, Argentine tango reached the European continent in Paris around 1912. Rich Argentine families sent their sons to Paris to study or develop business connections. These young men, unknowingly by their parents, learned to dance tango in the forbidden establishment and brothels of their city. They brought tango out of the shadow of the low-class entertainment into the grand hotels of Paris. Tango started to boom in the rich man's world. Its sensual nature inspired the Pope in Rome to ban tango, which only contributed to its rapid success. With increasing popularity for tango overseas, tango artists who were struggling for money in general found their destination outside of Buenos Aires. Overseas tango had not only positive reputation, it also brought prosperity. The first professional dancer was El Cachafaz, a man from the streets of Buenos Aires with lots of tricks and variation. Street smart and equipped with a sense for the opportunity, he earned his money with tango overseas, giving performances and private classes to the upper class. Indeed, a pleasant way of working. Due to political unrest in Europe by World War I, paired with boredom, economical instability, and homesickness, Argentine artists returned to Buenos Aires. tango overseas came to a standstill. Probably this was an important indicator that the movement of tango reached a climax back in Buenos Aires by that time. The golden age of tango in Buenos Aires. During the 1920s, big dance orchestras appeared on the scene, and singer Carlos Gardel became the first tango superstar. World War II paralyzed the entire planet, but Argentine economy flourished. The 1940s are the golden years in tango history. With the worldwide Great Depression, everything ends. The golden age of tango came to an end as well. Juan Domingo Perón, who started his presidency in 1946, supported tango, and its artists used them for his political campaigns. In those years, the famous orchestras of Juan D'Arienzo, Carlos Di Sarli, Aníbal Troilo mesmerized Buenos Aires city life. Open-air parties with 1,000 dancers became quite common. The coup in 1955 originated by the CIA that ousted General Perón had profound consequences for Argentina and for tango. Tango became a subculture in the Dark Age. The popularity of tango decreased due to the new military government favored the upper class. The culture of the mass of the population was alien and dangerous. Perón was a nationalist and a populist, and tango was both national and popular. As a consequence, many artists end up either in prison or on a blacklist. The new government, supported by the US, were interested to the new spreading culture of North America, rock and roll and jazz, a trick to manipulate the youth. As much they would have desired, the junta could not forbid tango in general. Therefore, they implement regulation to cut off the extreme popularity of tango. Tango turned more and more into a forbidden subculture. New laws did not allow teenage boys to go to tango clubs. Places for rock and roll music were open for all without exception. While the best way for young men to meet a young woman was in a milonga, suddenly it was much easier to meet a girl by dancing rock and roll. A logical reason why young people stopped to dance tango. The junta practiced a genocide over the civilian population with up to 30,000 victims. In conclusion, reason enough for many Argentines to leave the country in the 80s. The dictatorship of the military junta finally was over in 83, and tango subculture became status again. The lucky constellation of artist and choreographer Juan Carlos Copes, director and producer Claudia Segovia, and Hector Orezoli made up the success with the international tango show Tango Argentino in Paris in 83 and New York 85. The new age of tango after years of suppression began. We can say that Juan Carlos Copes and Maria Nieves have been the first artists of the second wave of tango for export. Together with some other couples, Miguel Ángel Soto, Milena Ples, and others, traveling successfully overseas, consequently promoting Tango Argentino as a stage show. Tango was always a dance of improvisation. Suddenly, it developed into a choreographed stage tango show. As a result, tango was ready for Broadway. In its improvised form as a social dance, it seems like it would have never reached that popularity. Somehow, these choreographed tango shows, presented by professional dancers, created a big misunderstanding of what tango was actually about. To the question, how did you like the show? Would you like to learn tango? It either triggered the reaction, oh, it's very nice, but never I can do this. Thank you, but this is not for me. Or, oh yes, I want to do these jumps and kicks as well. A huge wave of Argentine teachers spreading out into the world and made a living from teaching tango, which has become so popular. There were attempts of students to poorly imitate the show dancers. Somehow, many teachers merged with the wishes of their customers and their financial needs. There was a new fashion amongst young dancers in Buenos Aires and in the rest of the world later arising. Tango Nuevo. People of the new generation of dancers were dancing differently and kept an emotional distance from their partners while they were dancing with an open embrace. It is understandable that tango in Asia, in Europe, or in the US developed totally different. Each country has its very own interpretation of tango, and we cannot insist to have an exact copy of the original. Each country adopts exactly those structures who blend in with its own culture. In many cases, it assimilates quite far away from the original that it turns into a total new manifestation. Many Argentine teachers taught in classes steps, variation, and complicated figures. Maybe they did not realize that Western people in general do not have the lightness, the musicality, the corporality, and easygoing nature of Latin people. Furthermore, the closeness of the embrace, which is essential for Argentines, they will not even mention this in the classes. This precondition is not existing in Western people. They expected Europeans to learn in the same way they have learned, together with those Western students who picked up the step combinations easily. Still, though missing elegance and body awareness, they created unknowingly a tango world which turned out quite different from the original. Understandable, since we know the influence of cultural differences. The title tango teacher is not protected. As tango is a social dance originated from the streets of Buenos Aires, there actually does not exist a professionally educated teacher. In the old days, good dancers with some individual style and elegance usually will be titled maestro. Senior dancers will have watched about the junior dancers until they were ready to go to milonga, a social cultural structure of education. Nowadays, everywhere in the world, there are dancers who have learned something and have the calling to give their knowledge to others, call themselves teachers. It happened that dancers, not knowing anything much, but find a lucrative side income by offering themselves in milongas as teachers. Due to tango and its profound connection of two persons, and the rhythmical but even romantic interpretation of the music, the body will allow to disperse endorphins, a side effect which is proven in many research made with elderly people and Parkinson's disease. You do not have to be ill or old to feel the positive health benefits, just as a regular social dancer. Many dancers in Europe and Asia take the dance very competitive. Probably they don't understand what is missing. This reminds me terrible to the custom of a coffee to go. What does have a 3,000-year-old yoga culture from India and a roughly 100-year-old tango culture from Argentina have in common? I am asking myself, how is possible that totally different culture can reach out to another country or to other countries and become a subculture? As we all know, yoga and tango does not have actually much in common, but there are some points which are quite interesting to analyze. Number three, the title teacher is not protected. So, with other words, everybody becomes a teacher. In yoga, for example, you can make a 1 month yoga teacher training and you get a certificate, and you are a certificated yoga teacher. And I'm not wondering that so many injuries happen, because yoga is very complex, and a very deep knowledge or physical knowledge is necessary to teach yoga. So it's not done in a month's training. Of course not. Of course it's not done in a month's training. The same as with tango teachers. There are men, they can lead the basic 8 and some ochos with confidence, and then they start to teach and call themselves teachers. And beginners in general, in yoga or in tango, beginners are humble and believers. So they believe what you tell them because they don't know anything. So this happened a lot in the host countries. And I have also seen Argentines who think their Argentine passport and their accent, and they can teach tango. I have seen that also. People have to be careful. People have to be careful when they start learning. In older times, in Argentina, for example, in older times, there was more like a social structured education happening. The old milongueros, or the senior dancers, they keep an eye on the young dancers, and until they were, and they would not let them go to milonga until they were not really ready to lead well. And then they develop some specific, they develop into good dancers and develop some specific techniques, moves, or something authentic, and then the people started to call them maestro, and they already had something very specific developed. So it's an education by development, by development over years. It's not certificated, but it's happening by cultural, social development. So we don't have that in the Western world. And today maybe the young teachers in Argentina, they will be very careful when they start teaching. So they will make up. I mean, of course, there are also taxi drivers that tell, "I am a tango teacher. I can teach you," like this. That happened, of course. You have these exceptions everywhere, but in general, I would say that in Argentina, the young dancers who became better and better and better, and they have the calling to teach, they will first make their name between their tango peers, their tango friends, and then they will be assistant to the teachers for a while. And with the time, they will grow, and they will be accepted as teachers. So we don't have. Also, I see that here more acceptance happening in Argentina between the teachers. So they accept each other, because I think they will be more low profile. They will be more low profile, and until they really are accepted by their friends and peers to teach, and then they will teach in public, right? So we don't have that so much in our circles. Everybody teaches. So I think this is also a reason why so much competition is, and bad competition. I mean, like unhealthy competition, and people say, "Don't go there, don't go there. This is not a good teacher, blah 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 blah." Like this kind of things happen in our countries. More than in Argentina. I think so. I have the impression it's like that. And maybe it's the reason that in the Western countries, everybody, or also in Asia, that people just take the teach, like They think they want to make money, and there is someone who want to give them money for that, and they will do it. Just like that. Quiet recognition counts more than a certificate in tango. So when yoga and tango brought to other countries, it lost its original soul. Okay, when yoga and tango brought to other countries, of course, the other countries will only accept those structures they can accept with their own culture. So meaning to say they can only take that much of tango or yoga which they can accept in their own culture. And this is okay. This is okay. Unfortunately, sometimes it comes together with disinterest. So people, they don't know what they are accepting. They just have not the interest to go deeper and study why is it like this, what is tango about, what is yoga about, and then make their choice. They just take what on the surface is interesting for them. They grab it and take that without even digging a little bit deeper and see what is under the surface. The other thing is that they are trying to just to copy. They want to be authentic. Other people, they want to be authentic and they copy. So they try to copy a strange culture, which is ridiculous actually. Yeah, you cannot copy a culture. It's ridiculous. So they try to be seen authentic by copying the culture, and that makes it actually superficial. A Western man doesn't have to wear this yoga outfit like they used to wear in India when they go to a yoga class. The Western man, when they go to a yoga class, he doesn't have to wear Indian outfit to be spiritual. He can wear just some loose clothes which are comfortable. That's it. He doesn't have to wear yoga, traditional yoga clothes, which he would probably wear when he's in India. It's a different thing. Huh? When you are in the original country, you try to blend in. But don't bring these kind of things to your home country because it is not your culture. So for me, it's it's ridiculous. Some people want to look superficial, like authentic, but there is no problem to be spiritual with just normal clothes. Other thing in tango is that you have sometimes you see dancers, they act like Argentines. They have all this, they copy the way how the Argentine put the jacket and put this and this, and then they have the serious face, and then they have this macho looking, and then I think, my God, what is that? Our men are not machos, and it just doesn't fit in. So, and it's not necessary to be macho to dance tango. It's not necessary. And then to feel the connection and to be a good leader, it's not necessary to be macho. No? Just be yourself. Just be yourself and lead well and be well connected. That's all. No? So for me, authenticity is not to copy. It's to grasp the idea, to grasp the soul. What is it? What is the thing, which is covered in cultural attitude and stuff. So you put all this attitude off, and then you see what's inside and grasp this idea, this source of tango, source of yoga, the spirituality. How they connect with the universe, how they connect with God and with yourself, how you connect with your partner in tango, how you connect with yourself, with the music. That's the important thing, and you take that and
put it in your own cultural context. That is, in my opinion, the right way to do it. Thank you for watching.